My name is Emily Parker and this is my story. The story of how I fell in love for the very first time. Right here, in the middle of a busy London morning. It was a Tuesday. And honestly, nothing magical ever happens on a Tuesday. I was running late again. My coffee in one hand, my bag half open. And the sound of buses and horns everywhere. I remember thinking, God, Emily, if you survive this day without spilling coffee on your white shirt, you deserve an award. And then it happened. A cyclist came rushing out of nowhere. Before I even realized what was happening, my feet slipped, my heart jumped. And someone caught me. He caught me. For a second, everything just stopped. The noise, the crowd, the rush. All of it faded. And there he was. Daniel Whitmore. He wasn't like the usual London guys. The ones who look past you while checking their phones. He actually saw me. Are you all right? He asked. His voice was calm, deep and warm. The kind that makes you want to listen even when he's just saying your name. I stuttered something silly like, yeah, my coffee survived. He smiled, that half smile people do when they're trying not to laugh. And that smile stayed in my head all day. 2 days later, I saw him again. This time inside a small old bookstore near Covent Garden. It smelled like rain and paper and time. The kind of place I go when I need quiet. He was there, standing by the poetry shelf, pretending to read a book of Keats. I couldn't help smiling, so I walked up and said, "You don't really like poetry, do you?" He looked at me, a little embarrassed, and said, "I like what brings people to poetry." I laughed. "Smooth answer," I said, and just like that, started a conversation. Spark. A story I didn't know would change my whole life. We started seeing each other more often, accidentally, of course. Coffee near Soho, late-night walks by the Thames, sharing fries at a tiny food truck near Waterloo Bridge. London felt different with him. Lighter. Like the city that always rushed suddenly learned to breathe. One night, we sat on a bench by the river. The lights were shimmering on the water, and the cold wind made me pull my coat tighter. He handed me his scarf and said, "You know, Emily, you make London feel smaller. Like it's only ours." I don't know why, but in that moment, I wanted time to stop. It started to rain softly at first, but we didn't move. We just sat there talking, laughing, letting the rain fall on our faces. Then, without even thinking, I leaned closer, and he kissed me. It wasn't dramatic, just real, simple, warm, like we'd both been waiting our whole lives to find this calm. And that night, I realized something. Maybe the right person doesn't bring fireworks. Maybe they bring peace. The next few months felt like a dream. We had our spots. The little Italian cafe in Shoreditch. The bridge near South Bank where we'd count passing boats. The bookstore that started it all. He told me he wanted to become a travel photographer. He said he loved capturing moments that don't repeat. I told him I was too scared of moments that do. He looked at me for a long second and said softly, "Then maybe I'll help you make one worth repeating." And he did. Every day with him was something I wanted to live again. You know, when you fall in love for the first time, you don't realize how fragile everything is. You think it'll last forever. That nothing can change the way someone looks at you. But life has a way of testing that belief. And I didn't know it then. But my test was already on its way. That was the night he told me about New York. Everything changed the night he told me about New York. We were sitting at our usual place by the river, the city lights flickering on the water. He looked nervous, something I'd never seen before. I remember asking him, "What's wrong?" He hesitated for a second, then said, "I got an offer, Emily. It's New York. It's huge. A dream project." I felt my heart skip, not from excitement but fear. He was trying to smile, trying to sound brave. I was trying to act like I was happy for him. "That's amazing," I said, forcing my lips into something that looked like a smile. But deep down, it felt like someone had just quietly turned off the lights inside me. He reached for my hand. "It's just 6 months," he said. "We'll talk every day, we'll make it work." I nodded. But even then I knew distance changes everything. Still, I loved him. So I told him to go. I told him to chase his dream. Because that's what love is supposed to be, right? Letting someone fly, even when it means you might lose them. The first few weeks weren't so bad. We called, we texted, we sent pictures of sunsets from two different sides of the world. But slowly the space between us grew. He started missing calls. I started pretending it didn't matter. His messages got shorter. Mine got longer. And then one night he said, everything changed the night he told me about New York. We were sitting at our usual place by the river, the city lights flickering on the water. He looked nervous, something I'd never seen before. I remember asking him, what's wrong? He hesitated for a second, then said, I got an offer, Emily. It's New York. It's huge. A dream project. I felt my heart skip, not from excitement but fear. He was trying to smile, trying to sound brave. I was trying to act like I was happy for him. That's amazing, I said, forcing my lips into something that looked like a smile. But deep down, it felt like someone had just quietly turned off the lights inside me. He reached for my hand. It's just 6 months, he said. We'll talk every day, we'll make it work. I nodded. But even then I knew distance changes everything. Still, I loved him. So I told him to go. I told him to chase his dream. Because that's what love is supposed to be, right? Letting someone fly, even when it means you might lose them. The first few weeks weren't so bad. We called, we texted, we sent pictures of sunsets from two different sides of the world. But slowly the space between us grew. He started missing calls. I started pretending it didn't matter. His messages got shorter. Mine got longer. And then one night he said, Emily, I'm sorry I haven't been around much. Work's just crazy. I said, it's okay. But it wasn't. You don't realize how much silence hurts until you're on the other end of it. You don't realize how much love fades until you're the only one trying to hold on. I used to walk past all our places, the cafe, the bookstore, the bench by the river, and pretend he was still there. Sometimes I'd even talk out loud, as if he could hear me through the air across the ocean. Months passed. Then a year. Our calls stopped. Our messages turned into hope you're doing well. And one day they just stopped altogether. He didn't say goodbye. And I didn't ask him to. Because what do you say when love ends quietly? No fights, no closure, just distance. Just absence. London felt colder after that. Every street reminded me of him. Every rain smelled like that night we kissed by the river. I tried to move on. I really did. Friends told me, you'll meet someone else. But how do you explain that it wasn't about someone else? It was about what you were with that one person. For a long time I carried him like a shadow. Not heavy but always there. First I hated it. Then I learned to live with it. 2 years went by. I got promoted at work, moved into a small flat near Hyde Park, started going on morning runs, learned to eat dinner alone without feeling lonely. Life wasn't bad. Just wasn't ours anymore. One evening I decided to take a walk through Hyde Park, a place I hadn't visited since Daniel left. The air was cold, the sky was gray, and leaves crunched softly under my shoes. I stopped near an old bench, the same one where he once said, you can't plan love, Emily. You just stumble into it. I sat down. For a moment, it felt like the past was sitting right beside me. Not gone, just quiet. I smiled to myself thinking, maybe this is how love ends. Not with a goodbye but with peace. And then, I heard a voice. Still saving benches for strangers? My heart stopped. I turned. And there he was. Daniel. Same brown coat, same soft smile. Just a little older, a little quieter, like time had humbled him too. I didn't know what to say. I just stared, my eyes wide. And for a few seconds it felt like the world forgot to move. He broke the silence first. I tried living without you, he said. It didn't work. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to ask why now. But all I could say was, you're late, Daniel. 2 years late. He smiled softly. Then I guess I should start making up for it. And just like that, it didn't matter anymore. The distance, the silence, the waiting, none of it mattered. Because somehow, after everything, we were right back where it all began. I don't know if fate is real, but I know this. Sometimes the people meant for you find their way back. Not when you want them to, but when you finally learn to live without them. We stood there for a long time. Two people who had once known everything about each other, now strangers in the same city. He looked at me the way he used to, like he was memorizing every detail, afraid it would disappear again. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so I did both. He stepped closer, his voice low and careful. I thought I could move on, Emily, but every city felt empty. Every photo I took looked the same, like something was missing. And it was you. I shook my head, half smiling, half trembling. You broke my heart, Daniel. He nodded slowly. I know. I broke mine too. There was no big apology, no dramatic speech. Just truth, raw and quiet. He asked if we could walk. So we did. We wandered through Hyde Park just like old times. The air was cool, filled with the faint scent of wet grass and autumn leaves. I remember thinking how strange it felt to walk beside him again after all that time, and yet to feel like no time had passed at all. He told me about New York, how it was everything he dreamed of, but nothing he really wanted, how he chased success but it never felt right, how he realized that happiness wasn't somewhere out there. It was here, with the person who had seen him before he became anyone. I didn't say much. Sometimes silence says enough. After that day we started meeting again. Cautiously at first, coffee after work, short walks, random texts. Felt familiar but also new. We were older now. Softer. Less about fireworks, more about warmth. One evening, as we stood outside the bookstore where we had first met, he said, "Funny, isn't it? How it all began right here. Because you caught me pretending to like poetry." I laughed. "And you still don't like poetry?" He smiled. "No. But I love the girl who caught me pretending." And in that moment I realized we weren't starting over. We were continuing. Because real love doesn't need to start again. It just needs to be found again. Months passed, and we slowly built what we had lost. We took it day by day. No promises, no timelines, just honesty. Sometimes we fought about small things, about old wounds, but now instead of walking away we stayed. Because love isn't about never leaving. It's about always coming back. One rainy evening, the kind only London knows how to make beautiful, he showed up at my flat with 2 cups of coffee and that same shy smile. I opened the door and laughed. "You still remember how I take it?" He handed me the cup and said, "I remember everything." We sat by the window watching the rain blur the city lights. It was peaceful. The kind of peace that comes after storms. He looked at me and said quietly, "I don't want to lose you again, Emily. Not to distance, not to fear, not to anything." For a moment I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. I reached for his hand. "You won't," I said. "Not this time." And just like that, the city outside disappeared. Now, years later, every time it rains in London, people complain about traffic, about gray skies, about umbrellas that don't work. But I smile. Because to me, rain means something else. It means that love came back. It means that sometimes, even after you think the story is over, life hands you the pen again. So, whenever you walk through London on a rainy day, and you see a girl standing by the river, smiling for no reason, that might be me. Remembering the boy who caught me once on Oxford Street, and never really let me go. Because for me, London doesn't bring the rain. London brings him back.